According to the United Nations 2016 Africa Human Development Report, accelerating gender equality and women empowerment in Africa will hasten the continent's growth in the agriculture sector. How? My guest explains this on the program this week. Hello there, thank you for joining me on the program this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. Sub-Sahara Africa loses an estimated $105 billion annually because women are not integrated in their national economy. Well, this is according to the United Nations Development Programme. The agency indicates that African women holds 66% of all jobs in the non-agricultural informal sector. They spend 40 billion hours a year collecting water, yet they only make 70 cents for each dollar made by men. Well, that's some interesting analysis there. In our interview this week, I had a conversation with the Director, Regional Bureau for Africa at the United Nations Development Programme. But coming up next, gender equality and women empowerment is once again taking the limelight in Africa as the United Nations Development Programme launches the 2016 Africa Human Development Report. Take a listen.
The last declaration on gender equality and empowerment in Africa was made in 2003 in Maputo, Mozambique, a declaration that set a high pace for gender mainstreaming and equality in Africa. Since then, there has been progress and positive inflections on gender matters. 13 years after, the United Nations Development Programme is out with a Human Development Report, asking that much more be done to bridge the gender gap on the continent.
Yes, it's increasing, but not with high speed. If you look at participation in the labor market, the gender gap is costing the continent $95 billion and reaching 104 in 2014. Now, if you do your calculation, $95 billion over GDP of the continent of 1.7 trillion, it means that we're losing, by not closing that gap, 6% of GDP. It is huge.
There are rising human development issues around the globe, but this is threatened in Africa by gender inequality. This 2016 Human Development Report is set to address that with the help of the African Development Bank.
This Human Development Report presents 4 broad pathways that will lead us towards gender equality and women's empowerment. But we also wanted to look forward at the ambitious agenda that we have as the African continent in Agenda 2063 and 2030. And we wanted to pick on 6 key accelerators which would help us not only achieve gender equality as a human right, but also look at the multiplier effect that gender equality has across all the other goals.
The key message from this launch is that Africa must make gender equality a priority on its agenda if it hopes to achieve sustainable and progressive development, tackling institutional norms directly and making critical gender choices and investments.
In our interview, Mr. Abdoulaye Madiaye of the UNDP talks about Nigeria's economic development and gender issues. Mr. Abdoulaye Madiaye, welcome to the program.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Well, give us an overview of Nigeria's position right now in the 2016 UNDP Africa Human Development Report.
Nigeria is doing great. It's moving forward, although it has been facing 2 difficult shocks. The security shock that we're seeing in the northern eastern part of the country that is affecting the development or human development of the country, and the shock that we have seen lately on the commodity prices that is affecting the public finances of Nigeria. But Nigeria is a country with a great vision, with great leadership, with vibrant youth populations. I'm quite confident that they'll get out of difficulties that they are facing. It's is a country that is leading the way forward for Africa as one of our major economies on the continent. As we say in our language, it cannot fail. It's too big to fail anyway. It cannot fail because any disturbance in Nigeria would touch other parties in Africa. So Nigeria's success does epitomize the success of the continent. And I'm confident that we have the leadership at the helm to move forward Nigeria on higher grounds.
So tell us now, what really is responsible for the recent ratings, 152 of 186 or thereabout? You know, is it the security challenge or the recession that we face?
Both. I say it's a double challenge. Both are affecting the continent, but those are what we call in our language exogenous shocks. But we have to weather the storms. We should not lament on the shocks. It's how do we get out of the shocks? And again, as I said, it's a great vision. I'm looking at the government's development plan, the ERP, the Economic and Recovery Plan. And the IMF just visited the country, and I have a discussion with the IMF team. They are confident that we are on track.
Well, of course, Nigeria is making steps or taking steps towards diversification as well as Africa. And if I do remember, in 2012, the focus of the Human Development Report was food security. That is still an issue. Food security, you know, is still a very big challenge right now across Africa. But when you examine Nigeria's position right now, in terms of our diversification moves, how would you assess it?
Well, look, I have been traveling in Africa and I have been reviewing all these strategies. There are two I like most in terms of agricultural transformation. The one in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is doing extremely great in terms of improving productivity in the agricultural sector. And the same for Nigeria. What I have seen here, quite seminal, is we organize our conference here so that people can see that well, Africa has good example to show. And the case of Nigeria is an example to show. We're not yet there. It's a good start. It takes a will and a vision. And the will and the vision are